There was a fire lit before you ever walked this earth, a fire the enemy saw and trembled, a fire that hell itself tried to extinguish before your first cry was heard. The enemy attacked her destiny early, before her voice ever echoed in the air, before her eyes opened to the light. There was a war over her existence. The enemy saw what others could not: the calling, the power, the divine imprint on her life. He didn't wait until she grew strong. He came in the womb, in infancy, in early childhood. The attacks came quietly at first through rejection, abandonment, absence, comparison, and words that cut deeper than knives. While others were still learning how to walk, she was learning how to survive. Her innocence was not just stolen, it was targeted. The trauma didn't just happen, it was sent. But what the enemy forgot is that every attack formed against her became a thread in the mantle she now wears. Every wound became a well, every scar a symbol of survival. She didn't ask for the warfare, she didn't seek out the fire. But the fire came, and instead of being consumed, she was refined. The enemy thought if he hit her hard enough early enough, she'd never rise. He thought if he could distort her identity before she discovered it, he could silence her forever. So he whispered lies: you're not enough, you're too much, you're unseen, unwanted, unloved. He tried to bury her voice in the rubble of shame and insecurity. But even buried seeds break the ground when they've been watered by heaven. And though the world may have overlooked her, though even her own voice may have faltered at times, something within refused to die. She was marked, set apart, chosen. Before her feet touched earth, the plans of God had already named her. Not wounded, not forgotten, not victim, daughter, warrior, vessel of fire, the enemy didn't just fear who she was. He feared who she would become if she ever realized it. He feared her awakening, so he orchestrated patterns, cycles, distractions, and delays. He sent counterfeits to steal her affection and voices to drown her direction. But in the silence, God still spoke. In the confusion, his word still stood. In the darkness, his light still found her. Now she's beginning to see, not with natural eyes, but with prophetic clarity. She's remembering who she was before the world told her who she wasn't. The early attacks weren't proof of weakness. They were confirmation of calling. Hell doesn't waste ammunition on the average. The intensity of her struggle is evidence of the weight she carries. The enemy's early aggression is the receipt of her anointing. And now every lie is being reversed, every limitation is being lifted, every closed door is being replaced with divine access. She is no longer fighting to prove herself. She is walking in the truth of who she's always been. The enemy attacked her destiny early because he knew it would shake nations. But what he meant for destruction, God is using as the foundation of her rising. She is not a victim of early warfare. She is the evidence that purpose will always outlive the plot. She is marked by God, not by her past. The stains of yesterday do not define her steps today. The world may try to label her by her failures, her scars, the moments when she fell short, but heaven does not recognize those names. When God looks at her, he does not see the detours or the breakdowns. He sees the destiny. He sees the daughter he formed in secret, the warrior he fashioned in the fire, the vessel he set apart before time began. Her past may be filled with moments she wishes she could forget, decisions she regrets, people who misused her, seasons where she didn't even recognize herself, but not one of those things had disqualified her. In fact, it is those very things that God is using to bring forth the power within her. The enemy wants her to believe she's broken beyond repair, but God calls her whole. He wants her to replay the shame of yesterday, but God has already erased the record. People may remember what she did, but God remembers who she is, and who she is has never changed in his eyes. She is not the addiction. She is not the divorce. She is not the trauma, the abuse, the betrayal, the depression, or the failure. She is not defined by how far she fell. She is defined by the hand that lifted her. God did not change his mind when she stumbled. His plans didn't shift when her life went off script. He was not surprised by the detour. He had already mapped out redemption. She carries oil from the crushing, wisdom from the wilderness, strength from the struggle, and though others may still try to bind her to the past, she walks free. Because when God marks a person, no label can override his seal. His mark is deeper than opinion, stronger than memory, and louder than accusation. The mark of God is not seen in perfection. It is seen in perseverance. She kept going. She rose again. She kept believing when belief seemed foolish. That's the mark. The enemy thought her past would be her prison, but God turned it into her platform. The very story that once shamed her now sets others free. The wounds that once silenced her are now the source of her roar. She walks now not in arrogance, but in authority. She doesn't need validation from those who only see who she was. She's moved on from trying to explain her evolution to those who still see her through old lenses. She doesn't need to be understood. She only needs to be obedient. God's mark is not always visible to man, but it's undeniable in the spirit. Hell knows it, heaven backs it, and she carries it with grace. Her past is a chapter, not the whole book, and the author has already declared that her future will not be written in the ink of regret, but in the ink of redemption. She is marked by God, and no past can erase what he has ordained. Delay is not denial, it's divine preparation. What felt like waiting was never wasted. What looked like a pause was actually a process. Heaven doesn't operate on human clocks, and the things of God are not rushed by impatience or dictated by anxiety. She thought the silence meant she had been forgotten. She thought the stillness meant she had been disqualified. But in truth, the delay was sacred. It was God's way of building the foundation beneath the promise. Because anything built too quickly can collapse under pressure, and anything received too soon can destroy the one who receives it. So he slowed her down, not to punish her, but to prepare her. He held her back, not to harm her, but to protect her. There were prayers she thought went unanswered, doors that never opened, opportunities that fell through. But what she couldn't see was what God was shielding her from, what he was refining within her, what he was orchestrating behind the scenes. Delay is where God stretches faith, where he strengthens resolve, where he purifies motives and matures vision. It's where he takes the raw calling and refines it into character, because gifting without grounding becomes dangerous. Influence without integrity is a trap. She had to be hidden before she could be revealed. She had to be still before she could be sent. She had to be quiet before she could speak with weight. The wilderness was not punishment, it was preparation. She learned to discern in the dark. She learned to trust without evidence. She learned to stand without applause. And those lessons became armor. They became wisdom. They became the unseen oil that now drips from her voice, her presence, her obedience. Others only see the emergence, but they weren't there for the excavation. They see the fruit, but not the root system built in secret. Delay built her depth. Delay built her strength. Delay stripped her of striving and dressed her in surrender. It taught her that being ready in God's eyes is more important than being seen by man's eyes. Every not yet was really a just wait. Every closed door was a redirection, not a rejection. Every postponed promise was not a dead dream, it was a seed still germinating. The enemy tried to whisper that she missed it, that she was late, that she messed up too many times to be trusted again, but the truth is, she's right on time. Because divine timing doesn't bend to human error, what God authored, he still intends to complete. The timeline hasn't been broken, it's being fulfilled. She doesn't walk with frustration anymore. she walks with fire. Because now she knows the delay didn't cancel her destiny, it clarified it. It didn't reduce her, it refined her. And now that the time has come, she's not stepping into the moment wondering if she's enough. She's stepping in knowing she was made for it. Because delay is not denial, it is the divine making room for something greater than she imagined. A new season of authority has been activated, not by man, not by position, not by platform, but by the command of heaven. What she once waited for, she is now walking in. What she once whispered in secret prayers, she is now declaring with boldness. There is a shift in her spirit, a fire in her bones, and it's not born out of ego, it's born out of endurance. The battles she survived, the tears she cried, the years of hidden faithfulness have culminated in a divine unlocking. She is no longer asking for permission to take up space. She is no longer doubting whether she belongs. The season of hesitation has ended. The season of activation has begun. This authority did not come cheap. It came through crushing, through pruning, through surrender. It came through the discipline of staying planted when every part of her wanted to run. It came through nights she showed up in prayer when no one else saw, through choices to walk in integrity when compromise was easier. Through the forging of her character in secret places, God watched, God waited, and when the fullness of time came, He released what had been building in her all along. Now she carries something different. She speaks and the atmosphere responds. She moves and resistance breaks. She prays and chains fall, not because of who she is, but because of whose authority she walks in. She's not the same woman from last season. She doesn't flinch at fear. She doesn't cower to comparison. She's not distracted by noise or swayed by approval. She has locked eyes with purpose and her feet are firm. The same situations that used to shake her now fall silent under her presence. Not because she's trying to prove anything, but because she's finally realized what she carries. She understands that authority isn't about volume, it's about alignment. She's aligned with heaven now, she's in step with the Spirit, and because of that, there's a clarity, a force, a divine confidence that goes before her. Doors are opening, not because she knocked louder, but because heaven has now decreed its time. Strategies are unfolding because she's now trusted to steward them. Rooms are shifting because the oil she carries has matured. The crown she once feared to wear no longer feels heavy. It feels rightful. The mantle isn't awkward on her shoulders anymore. It fits. The old version of her wouldn't recognize the woman she's become. But this is what happens when you grow in silence and emerge in power. The authority she walks in is not loud, but it is lethal. It is not arrogant, but it is undeniable. She doesn't need to announce it. The evidence will speak. Fruit will testify. Heaven will confirm. Because when God activates a new season of authority, no man can deactivate it. No devil can delay it. No history can disqualify it. The weight she carries now is not a burden. It is the power to break yokes, speak truth, shift generations, and walk unapologetically in the fullness of her calling. The season has changed, authority has been handed down, and she is moving forward like the daughter who knows the throne backs her every step. Her voice is a weapon, her silence was strategic. What many mistook for weakness was actually wisdom. What looked like retreat was really refinement. She wasn't voiceless, she was being sharpened. Heaven had her in a holy hush, not because she lacked purpose, but because her words were being cultivated with precision. In a world loud with noise and opinions, she chose silence not out of fear, but out of reverence. She understood the weight of her words. She knew that when she finally spoke, things would shift, chains would break, darkness would tremble. And so she waited, she watched, she listened, she discerned. Her silence was not surrender, it was strategy. She learned early that not every moment demands a response, and not every battle requires her sound. There were rooms where her silence protected her from premature exposure. There were conversations where her restraint preserved her dignity. She could have spoken, but she didn't. Not because she didn't know, but because she knew too much. She saw what others couldn't. She sensed what others ignored, so she remained quiet, letting God defend her, letting time reveal what her voice didn't need to explain. And in that silence, something sacred happened. Her voice began to grow, not in volume, but in power. She learned to speak not just from emotion, but from revelation. Her words were no longer reactive, they became prophetic. Now, when she speaks, there is a shift. Her voice carries weight. It pierces through confusion, silences lies, and awakens destiny. She doesn't speak to impress, she speaks to impact. Her voice doesn't seek attention, it carries assignment. And the enemy knows it. That's why he tried to silence her for so long. Through trauma, through fear, through rejection, through shame. He did everything he could to muzzle her mouth. Because he knew if she ever found her voice, she would become unstoppable. He feared her sound because it carries authority. He feared her testimony because it carries truth. He feared her words because they carry the breath of God. There's a roar rising in her now, not a sound birthed from pain alone, but from power. She's no longer asking for space to speak. She's owning the space she was born to fill. And when she opens her mouth, strongholds tremble. Her declarations carry legacy. Her prayers shape atmospheres. Her words carry fire, not because she shouts, but because she knows the Spirit who fills her lungs. She is no longer hiding, no longer whispering in the background. Her voice is rising, steady and sure, shaped by the silence that prepared it. People may wonder how she speaks with such clarity, such conviction. They forget the years she spent in silence learning, unlearning, growing, healing. What they hear now is not noise. It's not volume. It's the sound of someone who has walked through fire and come out with language forged in heaven. Her voice is a weapon. Her silence was strategic. And now that she's speaking, there is no going back. She is unstoppable because heaven has decreed it. Not because of ambition, not because of talent alone, and not because others have endorsed her, but because God Himself has spoken a word over her life that cannot be revoked. Long before the foundation of the earth, He penned her name into the narrative of eternity, etched her assignment into the timeline of history, and sealed her purpose with the authority of His throne. That kind of decree cannot be canceled by man, cannot be silenced by opposition, and cannot be delayed by circumstances. She doesn't move forward because it's easy. She moves forward because she's compelled by something eternal. She doesn't keep going because she feels like it every day. She keeps going because the word over her life demands movement. Opposition has come in waves. Life has pressed against her from every direction. There have been moments of loss, betrayal, confusion, and deep disappointment. The enemy has whispered that she should stop, that she's not enough, that she's too late, too broken, too complicated. But every time he rose up against her, he underestimated the power of the decree spoken over her existence. Heaven's decree is not based on her strength. It's anchored in God's sovereignty, and what He has started, He is faithful to finish. When others counted her out, God counted her in. When doors shut in her face, He reminded her that no door man closes can block what He opens. She's walked through storms and deserts. She's faced seasons where nothing made sense. But through it all, she's learned to stand on what cannot be shaken. She knows now that her stability isn't in how she feels. It's in what God has spoken. And what He spoke wasn't casual. It wasn't uncertain. It was absolute. decreed, final, written in the language of promise, and wrapped in the fire of divine intention. She has been chosen, appointed, and released. Her feet are set on a path that hell cannot reroute. Her steps are ordered by the one who sees the end from the beginning. Every tear has watered the soil she now stands on. Every delay was a setup. Every no was a redirection. Every fall was an invitation to rise higher. She doesn't carry bitterness, she carries authority. She doesn't move in fear, she moves in favor. Because heaven has backed her, and when heaven backs you, nothing on earth can stop you. She is not moved by what people think, or by what they remember about her past. She's moved by what God has said about her future, and He said she's more than a conqueror. He said she's the head and not the tail. He said He would complete the good work He began in her. That's why she keeps rising. That's why she's unstoppable. Not because everything is perfect, but because the one who is perfect has already decreed her victory. She's not waiting for confirmation from people. She already received affirmation from the throne. The oil on her life is not optional, it's ordered. The calling on her name is not fragile, it's fire. She is unstoppable because heaven has already settled the matter.